Hello everyone, this is SteamedIguana, and welcome to the final episode of Monsterverse Madness. Just a couple weeks ago, the rematch we all have been waiting for finally hit theaters in HBO Max. It's even gone on to be the biggest movie to come out during the entire pandemic. If you saw my initial thoughts video, you know what my reaction was first coming out of the movie. But now that the dust has settled and others have given their takes on it, it definitely seems like this was another polarizing entry for some. Let's go ahead and dig into that more today as we review Godzilla vs. Kong. Before we get into this, I will be spoiling some stuff from the movie in this video. While I won't be divulging the entire plot of this movie, I'll definitely be bringing up some of the more major moments from it. If you'd like to continue watching, just be warned. Man though, has it been a ride getting here. Hot off the heels of King of the Monsters, we got the announcement that Godzilla vs. Kong was coming out, which we all assumed was coming since they put Godzilla and Kong in the same universe. What else were they gonna do? But for a long time, we had almost nothing on the movie. We got the same banner over and over again, a few leaks here and there, and for some people, they even started falling off the hype train. The movie was delayed multiple times, and with the train wreck of the year 2020 was, and the fact there was no G-Fest, it was a rough time if you wanted content from the big G. We kept getting spoon-fed, if you can even call it that. Little clips from Comic-Con here, a split second in an HBO Max ad there, and it just seemed more and more like we'd never get this movie. Alas, it wouldn't be until just barely before the movie's release that we finally got a trailer, and oh my god, this is incredible, oh my god, ah! Yeah, to say this trailer got people going is an understatement. This trailer within days became one of the most viewed and liked trailers on YouTube, with memes and hype. I'd say we're almost on par with Captain America Civil War. Everyone, not just G fans, but the general audience were excited to see this epic monster brawl. Godzilla vs. Kong was a movie that I think most everyone went into hyped as hell and with pretty high expectations. Me, I just went in wanting a fun movie where the lizard and the monkey fight. And now for the question we ask in all of these reviews. What did I think when I finally, after this long wait, at 2 a.m. slinking down into my couch with a pizza and some yoo-hoo, think about this movie? Well, let's dig right into this. I've seen Godzilla vs. Kong twice at the time of this review. Once in the comfort of my own home on HBO Max, and once actually going out to the theater to see it in IMAX, and man, I still love this movie. Despite the discourse on it, which we'll get to later, I thoroughly enjoyed what we got and felt that I got what I wanted out of it. Was there more potential? Sure, but damn if what we got wasn't a fun movie. For starters, the visual effects in this movie are spot on. I know some may not agree, but the way they're able to make the two titular kaiju move around, brawl, and even emote is just phenomenal. Like I keep saying, visual effects have come far enough that we can have the damn monsters showing emotion. And don't even get me started on the scenes with Kong in the snow, or the neon lights of Hong Kong, or Godzilla lighting up that bright blue, everything here is gorgeous. I think here, more than any other Monsterverse movie besides maybe Kong Skull Island, they seriously bring the two titans to life. And really, just look at that snow on Kong's fur. The way it clings on the end of the hairs, it looks so good! Both the scenes up above and in the Hollow Earth really brought me in, with the visual design of the Hollow Earth kind of bringing me back to Kong Skull Island in a way. There are some scenes that I will agree may look a little unpolished, but overall this movie is just a joy to look at. Adam Wingard's visual style is very distinct. We all know he loves his neon, and it comes through super well in a movie like this. The neon just made everything pop whenever it was used, and it was pure eye candy. One of my favorite settings and visual styles for Godzilla movies as a whole for sure, but then again, I also just love neon. Oh, and we actually get monster fights in the daytime, which is a huge win considering that's one thing everyone gets wound up about in other modern kaiju flicks. And speaking of the monster fights, these are easily the best in the entire Monsterverse. I mean, that basically is the movie. It's Godzilla vs. Kong. Each fight was able to feel unique, with the first outing obviously being Godzilla and Kong at sea, then in Hong Kong, and then going up against you-know-who. I loved how Kong was basically pulling off MMA moves, and I'm not gonna lie, I think feral alligator Godzilla might be one of my favorite things ever. Just seeing that fucker on all fours charging after Kong, that was something else. Seeing Godzilla do that just felt awesome. It comes off so primal, and God, I just loved it. Please give me more feral alligator Godzilla. And Adam Wingard wasn't lying. Even if it did finish off with the team up at the very end, there was a definitive winner to this rematch, even if Kong really does bow to no one. Seeing the new kaiju as well, like the Warbats and the return of the Skullcrawlers, despite being in really short scenes, I feel that helped them to not be super intrusive to the main story. Really just helped world building and making Hollow Earth, and by extension the Monsterverse as a whole, feel a little more lived in. Oh, and we all stand Titanus Doug, of course. Or could it be? Now we gotta get into the big spoiler of this movie, since I realize I can't properly articulate some of these points without bringing it up, but Mechagodzilla makes an appearance in this movie. One of Toho's big boys, he got a ticket to finally take part in the Monsterverse after the other big three came out to play, and I really enjoy him in this movie. I was unfortunately spoiled, I think like many people, before watching the movie that he was gonna be in it. That's really one of the biggest disappointments for me. Had I not known that Mechagodzilla was going to be in the movie, that would have been such a massive surprise. Just imagine being in the theater and seeing his reveal. That would have been an absolutely insane moment that surprised everybody. But, as I said, I unfortunately was spoiled, and initially I didn't necessarily hate his design, but I was of the opinion that I'd have to see it in action before making my final assumptions, and yeah. Oh yeah. That works so well in motion. Mechagodzilla's design and role in this movie as the big bad the two have to team up against was predictable, but I think was executed pretty well. Again, I'm glad to see them leaning into the more ridiculous, campy side of kaiju stuff, with something like Mechagodzilla even existing in this universe despite being so impractical. And he just rocks Godzilla's world. This whole battle left my jaw on the floor. Just a brutal Mechagodzilla that was beating the crap out of him, nearly even giving Godzilla a taste of his own medicine with his own kiss of death. Until, of course, Kong comes in and delivers that satisfying, wicked cool fatality. Now that's how you do a team up right. Overall, just a solid entry into the Hall of Mechagodzillas. The score this time around, though, it's alright. I've seen some people seriously ripping on it recently, and a lot of people defending it, saying it did a good job because it complemented the movie so well we didn't even notice it. But I will admit that a lot of the music did lack the memorability that a lot of the other movies in the Monsterverse did. I wouldn't go so far to say it's bad, but it's certainly not a masterclass of music like Bear McCreary's work on King of the Monsters. But I can see where the criticism came from. I would have much rather we got some more old Ifukube remakes, especially for a rematch almost 60 years in the making. If there had been a remix of the old King Kong vs. Godzilla theme, that would have been so good. Junkie XL did okay for the score. There's some good sounding stuff on there, just nothing that'll be hitting the playlist anytime soon. Now, I think it's time we acknowledge the elephant in the room. All the stuff I've covered so far, while there has been some disagreements on, has mostly been positively received by G-fans. The general audience has absolutely loved this movie, making it the biggest movie release during the entire pandemic and nearly single-handedly bringing back the theater industry. But one thing that a lot of circles I'm in really hated about this movie was the story and the characters. I'll be the first to admit, the characters in this movie are underdeveloped and didn't do much besides pushing the story ahead. But in my opinion, this movie manages to get away with it. I know I've made the joke that kaiju movies are all about the monsters, the humans don't matter, when, obviously they do. A lot of my favorite kaiju movies I enjoy less so for the action and more so for the human characters and story myself. But here, it's a movie that definitely knew what it was doing. I think there's different ways to do human characters in these movies. You either try to have well fleshed out characters, and if you do, you better do a good job at it, or you don't try and just have them there to push the plot forward and make up for it with other elements. In GVK, the human characters are not the most fleshed out, even returning characters like Madison, but they still gave entertaining performances on screen. I actually really enjoyed characters on both sides, like Bernie, as shallow as he may have been, was still a memorable character. And I think Gia on Team Kong is pretty unanimously agreed upon to be the best character in the movie for her interactions with Kong, despite being a child and also being deaf. Honestly, I'd go so far as to say that Godzilla and Kong are the best characters in the movie, since with how far visual effects have come, you can actually see what they're feeling come through on their faces, and I guess to put it bluntly, the monsters themselves are able to act in certain scenes in the film, like the entire section with Kong in the Hollow Earth, or when he was first on Skull Island. The entire movie really is a Kong movie at its core, even going so far as to do role reversals from the original, just like they did with Kong Skull Island, where there was no beauty. In this one, he isn't dying to gravity. He's not falling off any buildings. He's jumping up into the air, defying the very thing that killed him before, and soaring. Thanks to Bill B. Kocher for that analogy. Love his art. Go check him out. They managed to give the monsters so much personality that they're basically the ones carrying a lot of that weight and being actual characters instead of just giant monsters, even when they aren't beating the shit out of each other. Ultimately, I do agree that the characters here are weak, but I still did enjoy them on screen, and they were still fun to watch pushing the story along. However, I think one of the biggest problems I do have with this movie involves the character of Ren Serizawa. Yup, Ren Serizawa, who is the son of Dr. Ichiro Serizawa, one of the biggest and most important characters in the entire Monsterverse. And you barely even catch his last name as Serizawa. He's played up to be one of the bad guys in this movie, and sure, I can infer from the last movie that he's angry his dad sacrificed himself for an oversized lizard. But would it have been that hard to just give him 5 minutes? 5 minutes for him to explain his motives, tell us who he is, and why he's piloting Mechagodzilla. Just 5 minutes doesn't seem like much, but in a movie, that can seriously do wonders, especially for character development. It makes me wonder if more was there, since we have scenes like at the beginning of the movie where he just stares out with hatred at Godzilla. Him and the CEO of Apex Cybernetics were set up as the big bad of the movie, but the fact they called him Serizawa just had so much potential, and they really could have built him up more. I love a good villain, and I think a lot of people's problems with this movie would at least have a silver lining if he was a good villain. But how it is, he's barely in the movie. I can probably count the scenes he was in on one hand, and it's just really disappointing they didn't do more with him. As for the story, you know if you watched my King of the Monsters review that I just eat up cheesy shit. All the Hollow Earth stuff, the weird technology that seems out of place, Mechagodzilla, even the fact that Godzilla drills through the Earth's crust at a speed that is completely unreasonable, just left me with such a big smile on my face. It's ridiculous, it's over the top, and it's just like a Saturday morning cartoon. In fact, that's basically what the movie is, a feature-length, big-budget Saturday morning cartoon, where we follow the Monarch gang on their next adventure with Godzilla and Kong. We got characters from the last movie? May as well use them. Who will they fight this week? Mechagodzilla? Hell yeah! Stuff like this is just fun. The Hollow Earth air vehicles, as little sense as they would have made in Godzilla 2014, are just such a fun little invention. The fact they helped to beat Mechagodzilla by pouring alcohol in his console? Maybe a little annoying, but when's the last time you've actually seen a computer be brought down by its one weakness? Water. Even some of the plot holes, like there apparently being 2 Ghidorah skulls to control Mechagodzilla with? I thought there was only one that Charles Dance got at the end of King of the Monsters. Stuff like that, I can just wave off as a retcon. Especially since the idea of Ghidorah using telepathy to communicate between his heads, now being utilized as a link between the pilot and Mechagodzilla? That's just plain cool. Plus, if it is a retcon, Charles Dance probably still has his and can use it in the future. So, hashtag continue the Monsterverse. As for Godzilla literally tunneling to Hollow Earth with his atomic breath, I see that a lot and how it makes no sense, but I didn't feel like it was insulting my intelligence at all. I just sat there with a big fat grin on my face watching Godzilla and Kong do some batshit crazy stuff. The movie knew what it was doing with its story and its characters. It knew what kind of movie it wanted to be, and I think it executes that vision very well. It might not be the popular opinion, but I loved this movie in all of its cheesy, ridiculous glory. Wait a second. There's a whole dropped plot that had Ghidorah literally regenerating and regrowing out of Mechagodzilla's body? We could have had Mechagodzilla, Ghidorah, and Mecha King Ghidorah all in the same movie? And Godzilla was going to be mind-controlled by something called the Orca Z instead of just being pissed off? Ren Serizawa on the other side, an actual story? Release the Wingard Cut, goddammit you, Warner Brothers! I can't believe there's actually a Wingard Cut! It's real! We're all just joking about that! That aside, since I think the apparent Wingard Cut can make a video all on its own, I think now is a good time to mention that my favorite film in the Godzilla franchise is the polar opposite of all this. My favorite Godzilla movie is Shin Godzilla, a political thriller where human characters are what makes up the majority of the movie and has a masterfully executed plot and serious themes. But I enjoy Shin Godzilla for far different reasons than I enjoy Godzilla vs. Kong. Comparing them is like comparing apples and oranges. At this point, over 60 years since the original Godzilla released, I think the reason there's such a divide over this movie is that there's so much variety within Godzilla films now that you can have two fans in the same room who watch them for completely different reasons. You have some who love the deep themes and interesting characters of the original and Godzilla 84, but you might have others who just enjoy the monster fights or the special effects. Even within the same movie, you can have different people enjoying it for very different reasons. Godzilla is a malleable concept. You can stretch it into just about any genre and somehow make it work. Hell, you could probably even make a romance movie with Godzilla if you really wanted to. Two lovers separated on either side of Tokyo, with Godzilla between them and their love. You catch my drift. This movie, even though I love it, I can see why it's so polarizing for others. The parts I really enjoy, they might find grating, and that's okay. There's a place for both kinds of movies, and I usually categorize them as such. I personally enjoy both ends of the spectrum. I love the more serious take with Shin Godzilla, but I tend to revisit the Showa movies a lot more just for how off the walls they can be. And it's the same for GVK. I watched it and went in expecting a fun time with a giant monster brawl and maybe not the best, but at least fun characters. And I feel I got what I expected. As time goes on, I really do believe that this movie will grow on people, just as other Godzilla movies that initially were poorly received have in the past. Phew, that was a roller coaster, but I think I covered all that I wanted to for Godzilla vs. Kong. It's really strange to think that now we're in a post-GVK era. All that waiting and now here we are. Overall, I did really enjoy Godzilla vs. Kong. I thought it was just a fun Saturday morning cartoon, fun as hell popcorn movie. Godzilla, Kong, and Mechagodzilla being in the same movie is monumental, and I really do hope the Monsterverse continues, because this movie makes it feel like they can expand out and do so much more, maybe even picking up some of the stuff that was clearly left on the cutting room floor. Terror of Mechagodzilla when? While some may not agree, I think at the very least we can all be happy that the Big G is getting as much attention as he is. I don't think there's ever been a time when Godzilla was so popular over here in the West, despite being a household name. But hey, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to let me know what you think down below. As I said, I think we all enjoy these films for different reasons, so no judgment here. I'm genuinely interested to see what you guys think. And with that, we wrap up Monsterverse Madness. Despite some delays, I'm glad you guys came along on the ride with me. I definitely learned some lessons and will be working to try to keep a more consistent bi-weekly upload schedule going forward. I'm just surprised I've been as consistent as I have in the first place. But yes, thank you guys so much for your support. It really does mean a lot, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. And until next time, G-fans, sayonara.